Every love story begins somewhere. Every heartbreak leaves a mark. Welcome to Stories That Stay With You. Welcome to House of BL Stories.
It's strange how a single moment can change everything. I was standing in the cereal aisle, staring at a box of oat rings like it held the secrets to the universe, when I felt it, that prickle at the back of my neck, that instinct that makes every Omega's spine stiffen. Someone was watching me. I turned slowly, heart already hammering against my ribs, and there he was, a child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, with eyes so dark they looked like pools of ink, and hair that stuck up in every direction like he'd been caught in a windstorm. He was clutching the edge of a shopping cart, knuckles white, staring at me with an intensity that made my stomach drop. "Can I help you?" I asked, voice softer than I intended. He didn't answer, just kept staring, those dark eyes unblinking. I glanced around, looking for a parent, a guardian, anyone who might claim him, but the aisle was empty except for us and the hum of fluorescent lights. "Are you lost?" I crouched down to his level, ignoring the protest from my knees. "Where's your mommy or daddy?" His little face scrunched up. "Don't have one." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. I knew that feeling, knew it in my bones. "Well," I said, swallowing hard, "everyone has someone." He shook his head, so certain, so matter-of-fact. "No, just me, until now." "Until now?" He took a step closer, then another, until he was close enough that I could smell him, dust and rain and something sweet like honey. His small hand reached out and touched my cheek, and I felt a jolt of something electric. "You're my mommy now," he said. "The scary man said so." My blood ran cold. What scary man? But he just smiled, a tiny secret thing, and pointed toward the end of the aisle. I turned to look, expecting to see someone, a shadow, a figure, anything, but there was nothing, just the empty aisle and the flickering lights. When I turned back, the boy was gone. I should have left it alone, should have chalked it up to a weird encounter, a child with an overactive imagination, a trick of the fluorescent lights. I was an Omega who'd been divorced for 3 years, living alone in a too-big apartment, running a little bookstore that barely paid the bills. I didn't have room in my life for mysteries, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. Those eyes, that certainty, the way he'd said, "You're my mommy now," like it was the most natural thing in the world. I spent the next week looking for him. I went back to the grocery store, asked the staff if they'd seen a little boy with dark hair and dark eyes. They looked at me like I was crazy. I checked the local news, the missing persons reports. Nothing. And then, on a rainy Thursday evening, he showed up on my doorstep. I'd just gotten home from work, soaked to the bone, fumbling with my keys, when I heard a small voice behind me. "Hi." I spun around, heart in my throat. There he was, standing on my welcome mat, soaking wet, clutching a small backpack to his chest. His eyes were the same, dark, unwavering, ancient. "How did you find me?" I managed. "I always know where you are." He said it so simply, like it was obvious. "You're my mommy." "I'm not your—" I stopped myself, took a breath. "Listen, sweetheart, I think you have the wrong person. I don't have any children." "You will." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and strange. "Please," he said, and his voice cracked just a little. "I don't have anywhere else to go." And just like that, I was done for. His name was Micah. I found that I finally got him inside, wrapped him in a towel, made him hot chocolate. He told me his name like it was a secret he'd been keeping for a long time. "Micah," I repeated, testing the sound of it. "That's a nice name." He nodded solemnly. "The scary man picked it."
My stomach clenched. What scary man? But Micah just shook his head, his dark eyes suddenly distant. He's not here yet, but he will be. Micah, if someone is hurting you, No. He looked at me then, and there was something in his eyes that made my breath catch, something old and knowing. He's not hurting me, he's coming for you. For me? I laughed, but it came out wrong. Too high, too nervous. Why would anyone come for me? I'm nobody. I run a bookstore, I read too many romance novels. My biggest excitement is when I get a new shipment of, "He loves you." The words stopped me cold. What? Micah set down his mug, looked at me with those ancient eyes. The scary man. He loves you. He's always loved you. He just forgot. That doesn't make any sense. I know. He looked down at his hands, small and pale against the towel. I see things that haven't happened yet. You see the future? Sometimes, he shrugged like it was nothing. I saw you in the store. I knew you were my mommy. I knew you'd take me home. I wanted to argue, wanted to tell him that this was crazy, that children didn't just show up on doorsteps talking about the future and scary men who loved me. But I'd seen the way he'd looked at me, the certainty. Is that why you came to me? I asked softly. Because you saw something? Micah nodded. I saw you, and I saw him, and I knew you were supposed to be together. Supposed to be together? With who? But Micah just smiled again, that tiny secret thing. You'll know when you meet him. I didn't meet him for another 3 months. By then, Micah had become a permanent part of my life. I'd gone through the proper channels, called social services, filed the paperwork, jumped through all the hoops. They looked at my modest income, my small apartment, my single Omega status, and somehow, miraculously, decided I was fit to be a foster parent. How'd you do it? My friend Eliza asked one night, her eyes wide as she watched Micah build a tower out of blocks on my living room floor. I've been trying to adopt for years, and you just waltz in with a random kid and they hand him over? I don't know, I admitted. It just happened. The caseworker said something about his file being flagged, something about a relative who'd recently passed away and left, I don't know, some kind of trust. Some kind of trust for a 5-year-old? Almost 6, I corrected. His birthday's coming up. Eliza shook her head, but she was smiling. You're something else, you know that? 3 years after your divorce, you adopt a mystery child. What's next? You meet a mysterious alpha who sweeps you off your feet? I laughed, but it caught in my throat. I don't think that's in the cards for me. Don't say that, just because Kai was an ass. Eliza, I cut her off, not wanting to go there, not wanting to remember the way Kai had looked at me when he left, the coldness in his eyes, the way he'd said, I don't love you anymore. Like it was nothing, like I was nothing. Sorry, Eliza squeezed my hand. I just want you to be happy. I am happy. I looked at Micah, who was carefully balancing another block on his tower. I have him. That's enough. But even as I said it, I felt something twist in my chest, something that had been there for years, a quiet ache that I'd learned to ignore, the need for something more, something I'd never had. I met him on a Tuesday. It was a rainy day, the kind of day that makes you want to stay in bed with a book and a cup of tea, but Micah had his heart set on going to the park, and I couldn't say no to those dark eyes. So we went. The park was empty, the playground equipment slick with rain, but Micah didn't seem to mind. He ran straight for the swings, his laughter echoing in the gray afternoon. "Push me, Mommy," he called, and my heart swelled at the word. He'd started calling me that about a month in, and every time he said it, I felt something shift inside me, something I couldn't quite name. "Coming!" I jogged over, ignoring the rain soaking through my jacket. I positioned myself behind the swing, ready to push, when I felt it, that prickle at the back of my neck, the same one I'd felt in the grocery store. I turned. He was standing at the edge of the playground, just outside the chain-link fence. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair plastered to his face by the rain. His eyes. I couldn't see them clearly from this distance, but I could feel them, watching me. Mommy? Micah's voice was small, uncertain. He's here. Who? But I already knew. I could feel it in my bones. The scary man. I should have been afraid, should have grabbed Micah and run, but I couldn't move, couldn't look away. He started walking toward us, slow and deliberate, like he had all the time in the world. As he got closer, I could see more details, the sharp line of his jaw, the set of his shoulders, the intensity in his gaze. He was an alpha. I could feel it, radiating off him, that unmistakable pull, that gravitational force. And his eyes. God, his eyes. They were the color of whiskey, warm and amber, and they were fixed on me like I was the only thing in the world. Ethan. My name in his voice, rough and low. He said it like he'd been waiting his whole life to say it. Do I know you? I managed, my voice barely a whisper. He shook his head, a small, rueful smile playing at the corners of his mouth. No, not yet. Then how do you know my name? He was close now, close enough that I could smell him, rain and cedar, and something darker beneath, something that made my heart race and my knees weak. Because Micah told me. I turned, ready to demand answers from the boy who'd been silent since the alpha appeared. But Micah wasn't on the swing anymore. He was standing a few feet away, watching us with those ancient eyes. Micah? My voice cracked. What's going on? His name is Jeremiah, Micah said, and his voice was different somehow, older. He's your mate. He's always been your mate. Micah, that's not how it works. You can't just... Jeremiah lost his memories, Micah continued, like I hadn't spoken. He forgot about you, but he found them again. He found you. I looked at Jeremiah, at the alpha who was watching me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. He was beautiful, in that rough, dangerous way that made my Omega instincts sit up and pay attention. But I'd learned not to trust beautiful things. I don't believe this, I said, backing away. This is crazy. You're crazy, both of you. I'm leaving. I turned to go, but Jeremiah caught my wrist. His touch was like electricity, and I felt something inside me crack open. Please, he said, and his voice was raw. Just give me a chance to explain. I should have pulled away, should have run, but I looked into his whiskey-colored eyes, and I saw something there that made my heart stop. Pain, and hope, and a love so deep it felt like drowning. 2 minutes, I heard myself say. You have 2 minutes. We sat on a bench under a covered pavilion, the rain drumming a steady rhythm on the roof above us. Micah had wandered off to explore the playground, but I could feel him watching us from the corner of my eye. Jeremiah sat beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. He was dripping wet, his dark hair curling against his forehead, and I had to resist the urge to brush it back. 3 years ago, he began, his voice low and rough. I was in a car accident. I don't remember most of it. I was looking for someone, I think. I was going to find them and tell them that I loved them. Who? I asked, though I already knew. You. He looked at me then, and I felt something shift in my chest. I was coming to find you. I just realized that you were my mate. The bond had snapped into place a few days before, and I was terrified. I didn't know how to handle it, so I ran. I ran and I drove, and I crashed. I couldn't breathe. You were coming to find me? I was coming to tell you I was sorry. Sorry for being a coward. Sorry for running. He reached out, hesitated, then took my hand. His fingers were cold, but his grip was warm. I spent the last 3 years trying to remember who I was looking for. I knew there was someone important, but every time I tried to remember, it was like hitting a wall. So how did you find me? He smiled, a small, sad thing. I had help. The doctors said I might start remembering things if I saw them, if I saw you. So I found you online, your bookstore, your picture, and when I saw it, he shook his head. Everything came back. The bond, the love, the reason I was driving that night. You remembered everything? Not everything. He squeezed my hand, but enough to know that I needed to find you, to try. Try what? I asked, even though I was afraid of the answer.
Try to make things right. Try to be worthy of you. He laughed, a bitter sound. I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know that. But I have to try. For you, for Micah, for all of us. For Micah, I pulled my hand away. What does Micah have to do with this? Jeremiah looked at me, his expression unreadable. Micah is my son. The world tilted. What? I heard the word come out of my mouth, but it sounded distant, like it was coming from someone else. Micah is my son, Jeremiah repeated. I found him after the accident. He was being neglected, left alone. I couldn't just leave him there. You adopted him? Jeremiah shook his head. I didn't just adopt him. I'm his guardian. I'm the only family he has. But he came to me. He told me I was his mommy. He said, he knows things. Jeremiah's voice was gentle, careful. Micah knows things that he shouldn't, things about the future, about us. You're telling me your son can see the future? My son, Jeremiah laughed, and it was a broken sound. I don't know if I can even call him that. I don't know if I have any right. I found him after the accident, and I knew he was important. I knew I had to protect him, but I didn't know why. Not until I remembered you. I don't understand, I said, and my voice was shaking. None of this makes sense. Jeremiah reached for me again, and this time I let him. He pulled me closer, and I didn't resist. I was too tired, too confused, too desperate for answers. When I remembered you, he said, his breath warm against my ear, I also remembered that you were supposed to raise Micah, that you were his mother, his real mother, not by blood, but by fate, by something bigger than either of us. His real mother? I shook my head. I can't have children, the doctor said. I know. Jeremiah's arms tightened around me. I know, but Micah isn't going to be born. He's going to find you. He already found you. And in the future, you're going to raise him. You're going to love him. You're going to be his mother. This was too much too fast. I pulled away, stood up, stumbled toward the edge of the pavilion. The rain was falling harder now, a curtain of gray, and I felt like I was drowning in it. This is insane. This is completely insane. You can't just show up and tell me that I'm going to raise a child that I've never met before, and that I'm somehow your mate, and everything I thought I knew about my life is wrong. Ethan, no. I spun around, faced him. You don't get to do this. You don't get to waltz back into my life after 3 years and tell me that we're destined to be together. I don't believe in destiny. I don't believe in fate. I've had enough of being someone's second choice, someone's afterthought, someone's convenient option. It's not like that. Then what is it like? I demanded. What exactly is it like, Jeremiah? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're just another alpha who wants something from me, another alpha who wants to use me and then throw me away. Jeremiah was on his feet in an instant, and I flinched. I was used to alphas towering over me, used to that threat in their posture. But Jeremiah didn't loom. He dropped to his knees in front of me, mud and rain soaking through his pants, and looked up at me with those whiskey-colored eyes. I'm not going to throw you away, he said, and his voice was fierce. I'm not going to leave you. I spent 3 years trying to find you, and now that I have you, I'm never letting you go. You don't even know me. I know you. He reached up, cupped my face in his hands, and his touch was warm despite the cold rain.
I know you love old books and black tea and rainy afternoons. I know you sing when you think no one is listening. I know you dream about having a family, even though you think you don't deserve one. How? He told me, he smiled, that sad thing. He told me everything. About your ex-husband, about how he made you feel small, about how you've been alone for years, terrified to let anyone close. I don't. You do. Jeremiah's thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. You want this, Ethan. You want a family. You want to belong to someone. You just don't believe you can have it. I closed my eyes. He was right. He was so right, and I hated him for it. Hated him for seeing through all my carefully constructed walls and finding the scared Omega underneath. What do you want from me? I whispered. I want everything. Jeremiah's voice was rough, raw. I want to wake up next to you. I want to watch Micah learn and grow. I want to spend the rest of my life making sure you never feel alone again. That's a lot to promise. I know. He pressed his forehead against mine. But I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm just asking you to let me try. I let him try. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way he looked at me, like I was the answer to every question he'd ever asked. Maybe it was the way Micah's face lit up when he saw them together. Or maybe it was just the exhaustion of being alone for so long, the desperate, hungry need to let someone in. Jeremiah didn't push. He came to the park every day, sat on the bench, watched me push Micah on the swings. He brought coffee, black tea for me the way I liked it, and homemade meals that made my water. He helped Micah with his homework, taught him how to build better block towers, read him stories at night when I was too tired. Slowly, imperceptibly, he became part of our lives. "You're staying for dinner?" I asked one evening, trying to sound casual. It had been 3 weeks since our first meeting, and Jeremiah had become a regular fixture at my apartment. He'd pick up Micah from school, help with homework, stay until bedtime. "If you want me to," he said, and there was a question in his eyes. "I don't want to overstay my welcome." "You're not overstaying," I said, and my voice was softer than I intended. "Micah loves having you here." "And you?" Jeremiah asked, stepping closer. "Do you love having me here?" I swallowed hard. I don't know what I want." "Liar." The word was gentle, teasing, and I felt something inside me crack. He was right. I did know what I wanted. I wanted him to stay. I wanted him to hold me. I wanted to feel wanted again. "You're impossible," I said, but I was smiling. Jeremiah laughed, and the sound made my heart flutter. "I've been told that before." "By who?" "Micah. He said I was being too pushy." Jeremiah shrugged. "He told me I needed to be patient, that you weren't ready." "Micah said that?" "He's a smart kid." Jeremiah's eyes softened. "He knows you've been hurt. He doesn't want me to hurt you again." "He's a good kid." I looked toward the living room where Micah was building a fort out of couch cushions. "I don't know what I'd do without him." "You don't have to know." Jeremiah reached out, took my hand. "You've got us now, both of us." The first time Jeremiah kissed me, it was raining. We were standing on my doorstep, Micah safely inside, fast asleep. Jeremiah had just said goodnight, but he hadn't moved. He was still standing there, watching me with those whiskey-colored eyes. "Ethan," he said, and my name was like a prayer on his lips. "Yes." He reached for me, and I let him pull me close. His hand cupped my face, tilting it up, and then his lips were on mine. The kiss was soft at first, gentle, a question. I answered it by parting my lips, and he took the invitation, deepening the kiss until I was breathless. "You taste like rain," he murmured against my lips. "You taste like trouble," I managed. Jeremiah laughed, and the sound vibrated through me. "Is that a bad thing?" "I don't know yet." I pulled back, looked up at him, but I'm starting to think it might be. It took me another month to realize I was in love with him. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. Micah was at school, a weekend enrichment program that he loved, and Jeremiah had come over to help me organize the bookstore. We'd been working for hours, shelving books, dusting shelves, laughing at each other's terrible jokes. And then, in a quiet moment, I looked at him and realized that I didn't want to be anywhere else. I didn't want to be with anyone else. He was it. He was everything. "You're staring," Jeremiah said, not looking down from the book in his hands. "I know." He looked up then, and his eyes met mine. "What are you thinking?" "That I'm in love with you," I said, and the words felt right. "That I've been in love with you for a while now, that I was just too scared to admit it." Jeremiah set down the book, crossed the room in 3 swift strides, and pulled me into his arms. His lips found mine, and the kiss was hungry, desperate, full of years of longing. "I love you," he said, between kisses. "I've loved you since the moment I remembered you. I've loved you for longer than I can remember." "Then stop talking and kiss me," I said. He did. The sex didn't happen right away. Jeremiah was patient, careful, always checking in, always making sure I was comfortable. He knew I'd been hurt before, knew that Kai had left scars that wouldn't heal overnight. But when it finally happened, it was everything I'd ever wanted. We were in my apartment, Micah asleep in his room. The night was warm, and I'd left the windows open, letting in the sound of crickets and the scent of summer. Jeremiah had been reading on the couch, and I had been curled up beside him, head on his shoulder. "Ethan," his voice was low, intimate. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." He took a breath. "Do you trust me?" The question caught me off guard. "Of course I do." "Then let me show you." His hand came up, brushed my hair back from my face. "Let me show you how much I love you." I felt heat rise to my cheeks. "Jeremiah." "I want to make love to you," he said, and his voice was raw with need. "I want to show you how beautiful you are, how much you deserve to be loved. Can I do that? Can I love you, Ethan?" I couldn't speak. I could only nod. Jeremiah's kiss was gentle at first, a slow exploration that made my toes curl. But as the minutes passed, it deepened, became more insistent. His hands found the hem of my shirt, slid underneath, and I gasped at the feel of his skin against mine. "You're so beautiful," he murmured against my neck. "So perfect." "I'm not." "Yes, you are." He kissed along my jaw. "You're the most beautiful person I've ever seen, and you're mine." His hands moved with purpose, stripping away my clothes, pressing me back against the couch cushions. I arched into him, a low moan escaping my lips as he teased me with his fingers. "Jeremiah, please." "Please what?" He grinned, a flash of white teeth in the dim light. "Bossy." "I learned from the best." Jeremiah leaned down, captured my lips in a searing kiss, and then he was pushing inside me, slow and deep. I cried out at the sensation, full, complete, like he was the piece I'd been missing my whole life. "You're so tight," he groaned, "so perfect for me." Jeremiah set a slow, languid rhythm, each thrust drawing out my pleasure. The alpha in him was perfectly controlled, holding himself back, even as his knot began to swell and catch. I can't hold back much longer," he managed, his voice strained with pleasure. "Are you close?" Yes, I'm so close." "Come for me, baby. I want to feel you." I cried out as I came, my body clenching around him. Jeremiah followed a moment later, burying his face in my neck as he released inside me. "I love you," he said, and his voice was soft, reverent. "I love you so much." "I love you too," I managed, and it was the truest thing I'd ever said. Afterward, we lay tangled together on the couch, my head on his chest, his heart beating beneath my ear. "Jeremiah," I asked, my voice sleepy. "Yes?" "What happened to your wife? Micah's mother. Jeremiah was quiet for a long moment. I've never been married, not before you. But Micah has adopted. I told you that. But you said he was your son. You said, he is my son, in every way that matters. But I didn't have him with anyone. He's Micah. He's ours. I was quiet, processing his words. Ours? Jeremiah smiled, kissed my forehead. Ours, he repeated. He's always been ours. You said it yourself. He found you. He chose you, because he knew you were his mother. I still don't understand any of this. You don't have to. Jeremiah pulled me closer. All you have to do is trust us, trust me, and trust that everything happens for a reason. The next morning, Micah awoke to find me standing by the couch staring at us with a curious expression. Did you have a sleepover? He asked, tilting his head. I felt heat rise to my cheeks. Something like that, buddy. Micah nodded, serious. I saw you, in my dream. You were kissing. Jeremiah laughed, and I buried my face in his chest. Micah, you can't just say things like that. But I saw it, he sounded offended. You were kissing, and then you... Okay. I sat up, pulling the blanket around me. That's enough. How about breakfast? You have a hickey on your neck, Micah announced, pointing to my neck. I groaned, and Jeremiah laughed even harder. In the months that followed, we became a family. Jeremiah moved in, his clothes and books and weird collection of vintage records taking up space in my apartment. Micah loved it. He loved having both of us there, loved the stability, the warmth, the feeling of being wanted. And I loved it too. For the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere, like I was part of something bigger than myself, like I mattered. You look happy, Eliza said one day, watching me sort through a box of books. Really happy. I am, I said, and the words felt right. I really am. And Jeremiah, he's good to you? He's perfect, I smiled. He's everything I never knew I needed. The wedding was small. Just us, Micah, Eliza, a few friends from the bookstore. We held it in the park where we'd first met, under the same pavilion where Jeremiah had knelt in the rain and promised to love me. Do you take this Omega to be your lawfully wedded mate? The officiant asked. I do, Jeremiah said, and his eyes never left mine. And do you, Ethan, take this Alpha to be your lawfully wedded mate? I do, my voice was steady. Sure, I do. We kissed, and Micah cheered, and it was everything I'd ever dreamed of. A year later, Micah turned 7. We celebrated with a small party at the park, complete with cupcakes and balloons and a piñata shaped like a dragon. Mommy, can you push me on the swings? Micah tugged at my shirt. Of course, sweetheart. I pushed him, and his laughter filled the air, and I felt a warmth spread through my chest. This was my life, my family, my home. Jeremiah came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist. You look happy, he murmured in my ear. I am, I said. I really am. Good, he kissed my neck, because this is just the beginning. We're going to have a long, happy life together, Ethan. I promise. I know. I leaned back into him, my heart full. I know we are. It's strange how life works. You think you have everything figured out. You think you know your path, your future, your place in the world. And then something happens, something unexpected, and everything changes. For me, that something was a little boy with dark eyes and ancient knowing. A little boy who appeared out of nowhere and turned my life upside down. I used to think I was unlucky, unworthy, destined to be alone. But then I met Micah and Jeremiah, and I realized that sometimes the universe knows what you need even when you don't. They were my family. They were my destiny. And I loved them both.
Appreciate you watching. Hit subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next story.